Many veterans of Warframe argue that health tanking, stacking raw health, armor, and damage reduction to survive, has become increasingly unreliable, especially in high-level or endless content. The core of the problem stems from how enemy damage and scaling escalate. At higher-level ranges, even heavily armored builds with large health pools and health regen struggle because enemy hits simply outpace any realistic amount of effective HP. Once enemy damage becomes strong enough, a purely health-based frame often ends up being all or nothing. A bad hit or a focused burst can instantly kill you, with no margin for error or reaction. This makes health tanking heavily situational and forces players to either invest huge mod or arcanes just to barely survive, or abandon the style altogether. By the way, I humbly ask for your support by simply liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Thank you, and let's begin this discussion now. So additionally, the mechanic itself feels increasingly obsolete because its defensive style lacks the dynamic mitigation that shielding or invulnerability offers. Shields, shield gating, or abilities providing invulnerability give players a chance to recover or react, to block or avoid damage entirely, rather than merely absorb it. Health tanking, on the other hand, commits you to absorbing the hit, which in the face of modern damage, scaling becomes a gamble rather than a strategy. The result is that many players view health tanking as effectively dead or only relevant in low to mid-level content, reducing once diverse build variety and discouraging creative tank frames in favor of the more dependable shield gating-oriented setups. Honestly, tank-style warframes have been mostly sidelined lately, and it's not hard to see why. Why pour tons of modding effort into armor and high health pools when you can instead slot a handful of mods or abilities that grant invulnerability or shield gating and effectively shrug off even massive hits? Shield gating and instant invulnerability reliably absorb or avoid damage spikes that would otherwise one-shot a health-only tank. Because of that, many players and developers treat health tanking as inferior by default. It simply doesn't offer the flexibility or survivability consistency that shield-based or gating builds do, especially in high-end or endless content. It's easy to see health tanks as why bother when simpler, more reliable defense mechanics exist. That said, there's hope on the horizon. With the upcoming The Old Peace update, the makers at Digital Extremes have teased new and possibly insane arcanes that might address the problems health tanking currently faces. If these arcanes end up as powerful as current previews suggest, especially if they offer new ways to mitigate or gate damage for health armor builds, then tanky warframes could finally feel fun and effective again. The idea of combining tanky stats with modern arcane support could revitalize a playstyle that's long been underappreciated and overshadowed by shield gating dominance. Pablo recently shared some new arcane ideas on his X page, and they might change how health tanking works in Warframe. One of the biggest standouts is Arcane Persistence, which completely removes your shields. Instead of relying on shields to protect you, this arcane focuses on armor. If your armor goes above 700, enemies can't hit you for more than 500 damage at once. That means you can take huge hits from stronger enemies and still survive, as long as your armor stays high. The second arcane he revealed is called Primary Bulwark, and it's aimed at damage scaling through armor. This arcane gives you plus 1% damage for every point of armor past 1000, up to a massive plus 500% damage bonus. It basically turns armor into a huge damage boost, so the tankier you build, the harder you hit. Instead of choosing between strong defenses or strong damage, you get both if you invest in building more armor. These two arcanes together suggest a future where tank builds don't just survive longer, they become powerful damage dealers at the same time. Frames like Nidus, Chroma, Colorvo, or even Anaros could hit much harder without losing their toughness. It shifts the idea of tanking from just staying alive into something more rewarding and aggressive. If these arcanes arrive in-game, we might see a big shift in the meta, where health tanks finally get the spotlight and become both the shield and the sword on the battlefield. For anyone who loves building thick, unbreakable health tanks, these new arcanes are basically a dream come true. The idea that you can throw away your shields and get rewarded for stacking armor feels like Warframe finally giving tank players the respect they've wanted for years. Inaros, Valkyr, Chroma, and even Frames we don't usually think of as pure tanks, like Ashe, suddenly become way more exciting. When armor turns into both protection and damage, every frame with high base armor starts looking like a future monster. Primary Bulwark is the reason people are smiling like maniacs. Boosting damage by plus 1% for every point of armor past 1,000 up to 500% is insane in the best way. You don't need ability strength, special mods, or weird setups. Just stack armor, and your weapons hit harder because you decided to be tanky. Chroma players are probably already planning to break the game. Inaros mains are polishing their sand dunes. Even Ashe, who isn't marketed as a tank, has great armor scaling, and suddenly that matters a whole lot more. But the real chaos starts with arcane persistence. At first, people thought it capped damage to 500 per hit, which was already crazy. Then Pablo clarified, it's 500 damage per second, not per instance. That's even more busted. If you can heal 500 health per second or more, you are basically unkillable. You're not ignoring damage, you're out-healing it in real time. It's like turning your Warframe into a constant self-repairing tank that shrugs off everything. Now think about Nidus. A Nidus with 30,000 health is not some wild theory. That's easy to build, and that's before armor, damage reduction, or abilities even enter the conversation. With persistence active, that giant health pool would let him stand in constant damage for nearly a full minute and barely care. Then slap Arcane Grace on top, and you're healing for almost 2,000 health every other time you take a hit. That's not sustain, that's illegal regeneration. It's the kind of math that makes you squint, laugh, and whisper, they're not ready for this. And remember, all persistence needs to unlock its effect is 700 armor. A lot of tank frames already reach that naturally, but even those that don't will suddenly crave blue Archon shards to push their armor over that threshold. Players who ignored tanky builds are about to hunt for armor like their lives depend on it, because they kind of do. If these Arcanes releases teased, this might be the strongest buff to health tanking in Warframe's history. We're talking damage, survivability, scaling, and build variety all landing at the same time. Tanks won't just live longer, they'll hit harder, heal faster, and become true endgame monsters. It's not a band-aid fix anymore, it's a full-body upgrade. And every tank lover out there is staring at this future saying, finally. Level cap players are probably cheering the loudest right now, because these Arcanes finally give them a new reason to pick health-based tanks in runs where enemies hit like trucks. Before, most high-level metas leaned heavily toward damage reduction, shield gating, or frames that could outright ignore damage. Now, if you love health and armor builds, you can walk into level cap with something new, something that actually scales. It's not just about surviving anymore. Your tank becomes a threat, not just a wall. But this isn't only a gift for the hardcore endurance crowd. These Arcanes make tanking more fun for literally anyone who enjoys walking through missions like a living bulldozer. You don't need 6-hour survival runs to feel the impact. Inaros casually face-tanking level 100 enemies feels better. Valkyr healing through constant damage feels better. Even your favorite casual tank build hits harder and lives longer without needing sweaty setups or rare mods. It's simple. Stack armor, get tanky, do big damage. That's why this change matters. It's not a niche system that only the top 1% of players get to enjoy. It's a universal reward for playstyle, not difficulty. If you love being unkillable, if you enjoy wading into danger instead of hiding behind shields, then these Arcanes were made for you. Whether you're pushing level cap or just clearing star chart missions with your favorite tank, this is the moment where health builds finally get to shine for everyone. Again, if these Arcanes really hit the game the way they were shown, health tanking might become one of the most hyped playstyles in Warframe. We're not just talking, hey, I survive longer, but full-on tank monsters that punch harder than the enemies trying to kill them. It's exciting, it's fresh, and it changes the whole identity of what it means to build a tank. But what do you think? Is this the big moment where health tanks finally take over the spotlight, or do you think these arcanes might end up too strong and need adjustments? Let me know how you'd use Arcane Persistence or Primary Bulwark, and tell me which warframe you're most excited to build with them. Don't forget to drop a like if you enjoyed the breakdown, and subscribe if you want more deep dives like this. I want to hear your ideas, your builds, and your chaos. Let's talk tanks.